So welcome to On the Entrepreneur's Journey, the show where we help founders build companies that scale, evolve, and eventually run without them, with fewer mistakes, less chaos, and a lot less stress along the way. Today, we're diving into a topic that affects every entrepreneur: stress, the silent tax on performance, decision-making, and ultimately their health. My guest, Elle Ingalls, is the creator of the Pressure-Free Method and a multiple-time author, including, most recently, The Pressure-Free CEO, which breaks down common pressures that derail leaders from performance anxiety to stress-driven performance inhibitors. And we're doing something else too. We're going to unpack how Elle built both the method and the business around it. Her journey from symphony conductor to a nonprofit leader to entrepreneur, author, and coach. The mistakes she made along the way, and how she's now scaling through corporate programs and certification. So welcome to the show, Elle.
So glad to be here.
Great. So let's start with the end, which is your recent book that came out over the summer called The Pressure-Free CEO. And in it, you talk about the toll that stress takes on CEOs. And ultimately, you cite several examples of CEOs who actually have died much younger than they would normally, statistically. And what is your takeaway about the causes? And you seem to link stress as being one of the main causes of their demise, I guess.
Yeah. When you think about these people that I mentioned in the book, people like Steve Jobs, Susan Wojcicki, Ranjan Das, these are people who took really good care of themselves from a health standpoint as far as diet, exercise, and they're above average, but they don't make it to an average lifespan of a person in this country. So that really intrigued me. So I started to dig into what were the underlying causes that would have caused them to die so young. And I mentioned not just cancer, heart disease, but also suicide. And it's pretty sad to see that some of the younger CEOs decided that the only way was to take their own life. So the pressures that entrepreneurs and leaders and CEOs experience are myriad. There's so many things impacting us as we're trying to create our businesses, or if you're leading a business. And I had direct experience. My father was a president of a bank. My sons own their own company. I ran a symphony for years, and I'm running my own company. So I just had this breadth of knowledge of seeing where all the various stressors were coming from. So it took me 4.5 years to write this book. It was not a simple task. A lot of rewrites, a lot of editing. Worked with a coach out of New York to help me do it. But I really think it gets to the heart of what really is impacting people at the leadership level.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, somebody dying is ultimate problem, but most stress is going to manifest in many ways and derail and inhibit people. So talk to us a little bit more about what are some of the more common tells, or more usual things that entrepreneurs can expect, and how they recognize it.
Yeah, when I think about the clients I've worked with at the C-level, couple of things. On medications is a clue, like something chronic is going on with you. That's a clue. Another tell is you look really calm on the outside, but if we lift up the hood, what's really going on? I was just talking to a C-level leader yesterday, and he's like, I look so calm to everybody else, but inside it's serious. Like what's going on is serious.
It's
I
a
can't
cauldron.
sleep. Yeah, it's a cauldron. And another guy many years ago said it's a 24/7 controlled burn. Like I sort of have it under control, but ulcers, all those various things that are happening, pre-diabetic or metabolic syndrome, that can be a tell. I had one client, and you'll see her testimonial on my website. She's HR director. She took herself to the hospital thinking she had a heart attack, went straight from work. And it wasn't a heart attack, it was a panic attack. Now, with a heart attack, she would get some sort of diagnosis, and then this is what we're going to do. But with a panic attack, that's a different deal. It's like, okay, so how do I prevent that from happening in the future? So she tried all sorts of things and then learned about me from a colleague. And in one session, everything clicked. It's like, oh, now I see. Now I understand what's going on. So I think there's a lot of myths around stress, especially for leaders. You're told you need to slow down, you need to take time off, like you need to chill out, you need to breathe, right?
Right.
All those little things you hear, but that's really not how it works. So I help people understand what the stress response really is and how to interrupt it. So when you interrupt the stress response, then you're preventing all this, I call it the stress cycle of two different floods of hormones. When you can prevent that, then all of the chronic diseases, both mental and physical, have a root in the release of these stress hormones. So if we can get clean on the inside, it's a real game changer. In fact, this one director said, this is going to not only help me at work, but this is going to change my family for generations. She
Right.
had 4 kids at the time, now has 5. So that's a lot of children. And you know
Right.
that, right?
Yeah, I do. I do know that. Well, I mean, I think, what I really like about your work is that I think there's a lot more recognition of the toll of
Mm-hmm.
stress and anxiety and in society at large, let alone entrepreneurs, which, probably takes it up a notch.
Yeah.
But there aren't a lot of solutions. And where you've done is that you've actually created a method that's actually a remedy for actually prohibiting the stress response from setting in and then actually giving long-term benefits to your clients, which we know a lot of people who, I mean, there are a bunch of remedies that don't work that are common
Yeah.
and that don't help. So how did you, I mean, you're not, you don't have a PhD in neuroscience,
I don't.
anything else that would is medical that would say, okay, you're the person to take this project on. You took it on because of self-interest and you had seen it around you. How did
Mm-hmm.
you come up with a method that worked, that was not rooted in science, but science is validating, which is really cool. But how did
Yeah.
you come up with it? I'm kind of interested in how you discovered it. Did you research it? Was it trial and error? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I would say there were 2 points in my youth that got me doing what I'm doing today because I didn't just wake up in 2010 and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a performance coach." That did not happen. I came to this work as a high performer. So I've been playing violin since I was a little girl. And in high school, I was an athlete and I damaged my knees. I was a runner hoping to run in college, couldn't run, but I asked to be apprentice coach to the team. So I started working with athletes, and athletes started to come to me before their major events and ask me to calm them down. It's kind of a
Mm.
strange thing. Um, but
This is in high school. This
this
is in
is in
high
high
school.
school. I'm a
Right.
senior in
Okay.
high school. And I just talked to a woman. I think of her as a young woman because she was a junior when I was a senior, right? But now she's an adult, of course, with children of her own, and she remembers it. She's like, "Yeah, you calmed everybody down." So there was something about being a performer at a young age and taking the stage and knowing how to do it without, I never had had stage fright or any experience like that. But it was this way, things I would do just to make sure I was cool and calm in the heat of the moment. So there was that. But then fast forward, and I actually had a panic attack. We didn't have those words back then, but I was conducting at the University of Michigan and conducted this great concert. This guy asked me to play violin on his senior recital. I do that all the time, no big deal. But when you're speaking in public, it's not that you're afraid of public speaking. You're afraid of somebody in the room. You're afraid of someone in the room that's going to be judging you. So when we went on the stage that night, this kid must have been the most popular kid in college because it was standing room only. Usually there's just a handful of people. And the entire string faculty was there to see this performance. And I think it was them in the room, those professors. I thought I was having a heart attack on stage. And it was so scary and so like, oh my God, I have to lead this whole thing. How am I going to do this? Somehow I do it. I'm enough of a pro. But that night I was back home and I'm like, I can't stand in front of a 70-piece orchestra and have a meltdown. So I went to the medical library at Michigan and I asked the research librarians, this is pre-internet, this is 1980s. And I said, can you share with me, I want to know what just happened to me and I want to prevent it. So in doing some of that research way back then, I just kind of created this little set of tools. And it was those set of tools that I would teach my own kids and my violin students when they're performing, whether it's baseball, hockey, whatever it is, running, or on stage. And in 2010, my two older sons were playing baseball, high school baseball. They asked me to teach this to their baseball team. So went to the head coach, and he was a financial advisor for Chase Bank at the time, and he's like, "I need you. So will you be my will you be my private coach? And I want you to work with the team." So I started working with the team and then started doing research. And I came across research from Professor Emeritus at Columbia, Dr. Marianne Legato. Her research and research at some that was being done at Colorado State, those two things like came together for me. And I realized it's not enough just to be calm before the event, like before the big meeting, you're standing in front of the board or whatever it is. This is a method you need to use all day long, because just one release of these hormones is going to create you to be suboptimal mentally and physically. So
Okay, so
then, yeah, go ahead.
let me go back. So
Hmm.
um, from a very young age, you're playing violin, you're forced on stage. You've
Hmm.
gotta, you've got to deal with whoever's in the room as you look out and doing it. So, there's a obvious need for you to get this under control. And so that's
Hmm.
that's kind of driving you. And then you have the foresight to having had a panic attack and making it through, just saying, I need to figure this out a little bit. So you do some
Hmm.
research. And then that's part of your, not only you're teaching music, but you're teaching performance, which is great. So
Hmm.
you're immersed in this issue from as you move through. And then of course conducting an orchestra, I can't imagine the stress of holding that together, coordinating all these sections of the orchestra. But then also of course there thousands of people in the room, in the audience, and they're expecting perfection, and then you're the
Yeah.
executive director of it. So you're kind of like, you're in the fire all day, every day anyway. But I love the way that you went out and researched it, and then
Hmm.
it became part of your, and then it ultimately became what you decided to do as a profession, because you had left, right, the orchestra
Yeah.
at that time
It took me a little
in
while. It took me
2010.
8 years before I stopped performing in an orchestra and gave up my studio, my teaching studio. That was really hard at the college.
Yeah.
That was hard. But I truly believe this is why I'm on the planet. When I coach someone and they not only start to have a much better situation at work, but also at home, or maybe some sort of medical breakthrough. I had two, I would call them medical miracles, happen to me when, by the way, it's kind of cheeky. I didn't think I needed my own method. I thought I was a pretty calm professional. That was so wrong. I call it pre-pressure free me and post-pressure free me. And it's a very different person. So I use the method on myself, and two things healed for me that I just could never have imagined would have. So it's pretty interesting to see what happens for people, both mentally and physically.
So when do you decide that
Hmm.
I'm going to make a business out of this? So I mean, your world's been music,
Hmm.
and now you have children. You're starting with the coach and the baseball team, and
Hmm.
then when does the light bulb go off and say, okay, I'm going to document this. I'm going to turn it into a program. I'm going to continue to do research on it. I'm going to get clients, and that's how I'm going to make my living.
Yeah. Well, in 2009, my eldest was going to graduate high school in the spring. So December 2009, I clearly remember this. In fact, I got the book right here. I realized after years running a nonprofit, paying for my own health insurance most of those years, like for our whole family, we have three boys, just scraping by. As my eldest used to say, we're the classiest poor people I know. Like, it's just so funny. It's just people thought we were very wealthy. I think people thought we were independently wealthy because we were running these things in town, but I'm looking at it and saying I need to do something more to get my kids through college. So um I had a 529, but a little late in the game here, so I'm going
Yeah.
okay. I need a for-profit initiative. I've always worked for nonprofit arts, so let's do something for profit. So I started working on creating a business where I teach financial management to nonprofit execs. and
Mhm.
even small business owners started working on that. And that's because I went to the library, my favorite place, and there was this in a CD book, Cash and a Flash. I thought, oh, that's exactly what I want. I want cash and I want it now. So I started listening to that, and it's one thing to read a book, it's another thing to do the actions in the book. And so I probably listened to the CDs of this 100 times, and I started doing it. Put a mentor in my life, and I showed him what I was doing, and he goes, do this, do this. He gave me some ideas, people to contact, and so I could build a whole online business with this. And then he goes, but I've read your bio online, and this is not. I don't think this is what you should be doing. You're so multi-talented. You should be doing something else. And I just I know my face fell. And he said this, and I say this a lot to my clients. I go, just stay open. Like just stay open. And it was 2 nights after that talk that my sons asked me to coach their baseball team. So for a little bit, I was simultaneously doing two things until I quickly realized when I started coaching, not just that advisor, but the department chair at the college. She found out what I was doing, literally grabbed her checkbook and said, my life is a mess of stress, like I want you now. So I had two clients. Then I coached the entire faculty at the school. So it was like things were happening. And but it's not easy to be an entrepreneur. It's not easy to be a solopreneur, to start your own business. So I've heavily invested in business coaches and put other mentors in my life. I have a couple. I really dug in to do the book, do the things in the book. I created an online courses, and then I got burned. So I had
Mhm.
created 6 online courses very specific to people. So um, the regular course, then student athletes, college students, parents, educators. Like I created a whole stream of different online courses. And through one of my mentors had met somebody who had all the websites for all of those Chicken Soup for the Soul authors, like all those kinds of people. And they're like, oh my God, you're going to be our stress queen. Like they were very excited. So, put all this stuff on a hard drive. They have it. They're starting to rig things. And I'm loading graphics up and we're creating this cool website. 2 weeks before the launch of the website, I go to launch something up and I'm locked out. Like, that's kind of strange, right? So I have the CEO's number. It's a very small operation. Like, I call him, I don't get an answer. I'm like, well, that's kind of strange. So I email. And then I remember the web designer of the team, I knew him on Facebook. We had connected on Facebook. So I sent him a Facebook message. I'm literally in concert black about to perform a faculty recital in the parking lot of our college when I see his phone number come up on my phone. Like, I got to take this call, right? So I take the call and he goes, I should not be the person calling you, but this company just has gone bankrupt 2 weeks ago and they had us bring all our equipment in, including your hard drive, and and we're not getting paid and you're not getting a website. And I had spent, it's going to sound like a lot of money, but think about who I was also being paired up with. It was like $39,000. So that's a lot of money when you're a nonprofit exec.
Yeah.
I was I used to for a while say, okay, don't play with the big boys or you can get burned. But that was a very negative mindset and a wrong mindset. But when I got off that phone call, I'm looking at my phone, I said to myself, I would be revenue sharing with that team. I was like, every penny I earn is mine now. That's what
Yeah.
I said.
Right.
Every
They
penny I
basically
earn.
had, yeah, they basically had an interest in your business too,
Yes, they
which
did.
you,
Yes, they did.
which they cut out. So that's, yeah, I mean, that's just an entrepreneurial pitfall that you went into, and
Yeah. And a
and you
lot of people
needed
do.
and you needed your method to get you out of it.
I sure did because I had to go perform that night. Like within 20 minutes I was on stage. So
Right.
yeah, it was quite the event. And I just look back and I love how I said, well, every penny I earn now is going to be mine. Like I just twisted it around, really quickly. And but yeah, that was a night where I super needed pressure free for sure.
So, sort of tacking back to the method itself,
Hmm.
and I'm sure there are people in the audience who say, "Yeah, this is me." I look good on the outside, but I have a cauldron on the inside. I have anxiety, financial pressures, whatever it is that
Hmm.
they're dealing with. Um, what advice would you give just, a first time person said, okay, I'd like to, not be triggered by these worries and what is the first thing that you tell entrepreneurs or people who are dealing with stress on how to cope with these events or the chronic nature of it?
Well, most of the patterns that we have, they're so subconsciously driven. We've been doing it since we were probably in utero. Okay. So we've been triggering the stress response for so long. So we're breaking patterns. So if you have let's say it's a financial pressure pattern, you see these numbers. I had one guy looks at his accounts in the morning, and if it's good, great. If it's not, he has a crappy day. So like whatever those things are, noticing first what it is that's triggering you. Actually, the first step I didn't have it at first when I created the method, but the first step is, what do you really want? So I dig in with my clients, say, what do you really want? Let's say it's, I don't want to react if I see bad numbers. That could be it. So I don't want to react if that's the target. So the next thing you need to do is when you first experience that stimulus, like you open your accounts, right in that moment, you have about 10 seconds before the two mechanisms in the brain will kick off the stress response. 10 seconds is plenty of time to decide what you really want to do. If you want to have a great day, that's what we're aiming for right here.
Right.
So it's like, okay, one of the fastest ways to retrain a brain, and very few people know this, like coach psychologists on this, so that they don't know this, is a gross motor motion, a big motion. Okay. So I teach people a couple of crazy big motions. They have to be unusual. Can't be like raising the roof all day, or I have to find a different thing for you. But I teach them a couple of motions, and you do that motion in that 10-second thing. It's usually kind of silly. So you smile. When you smile, you release neuropeptides, and those little proteins allow your brain to keep working well for you. Because when we go into fight or flight, we shut off our cortex and our hippocampus. It's why you go to a social event, can't remember somebody's name 5 seconds after they tell you their name. Like, we're not stupid, right? What's really going on here? We've triggered the stress response before we got to the event. Our hippocampus is down. Also willpower. Like you can't just stop at one or two drinks. You got to have more because you have no willpower to stop. Or you'll just binge Netflix all night because you're just looking for comfort and entertainment. So willpower is shot. But if we can prevent all that, then you're going to go into the meeting, your statistics are right there. Like you're a totally different person to them. Because when we trigger these hormones, you literally are repelling people away from you.
Right.
So I teach people how to open up and actually attract people to them. So attract sales, attract team members to feel like they're finally being seen and heard, because your senses change too. So that 10-second window is everything. And of course, really the true clue is noticing what are these stimuli that are causing me to trigger the stress response. Could be as
So
simple as this little thing right here. Like this thing right here is one of the biggest stressors. Alarms. Like I even had a guy who kept his phone on his like a little belt thing and put it on vibrate, but it was like a taser. Like every time it went off, it was like zzz, like his whole nervous system went. So I'm like, you got to get rid of that.
yeah.
Either take it off vibrate or get it off of your belt because you're just getting tasered every few seconds here.
So these are really simple,
Simple.
practical things that you can do.
Yeah.
Open up your body, physical things that you do that will actually intercept that message from going into fight or flight, which is kind of the way you describe it,
Yep.
which will, end up shutting down and providing, massive filters from your ability to perform well. And
That's right.
so it's the recognition at first, and
Mm-hmm.
then the action next that will interrupt this response from happening, which
Mm-hmm.
enables you to be in fully your best self.
Yeah.
And so that's it. So it's something that can be taught, and but you have to do the work beforehand to figure out what's bothering you, where the triggers are, so you can get in that moment and and
Yeah.
and react in that.
That's right. Yeah. And I like to say the method is super simple. In fact, I had one psychologist said, this is so too simple. I said, it has to be simple. She was working with people with cancer. I'm like, it has to be simple because we're so complex. If it's not simple, people can't do it. Like you can give people a lot of complex things. I get it from some of my clients. I've been told to do this and this and this. I'm like, that's great, but are you actually doing it? I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So this is super simple. And I actually have over 50 tools because we're so unique. So the method is simple, but we're complex. I remember an early conversation with you, and you said, it seems to me that stress presents differently in people. It does. It's very, very different. Some people get migraines and they grind all night, and it's just very head centered. Some people feel tightness here. They have heart disease. They've got something going on here. And other people, it's gut, like they have all kinds of problems with their gut, their digestive system, and so everyone is so unique. Some people are not even truly aware of what's going on, but then they go to the physician like, "Wow, you've got some serious things going on here," and that is causes so much anxiety. I'm reading Ellen Langer's book. She's a psychologist at Harvard. Um, Amazing some of the studies she's done where just because you've been given a diagnosis can actually cause you to become more and more and more sick. It's
Yeah.
fascinating, what our brains will do. So I really one of my tools is a little physical thing, but then I'm like open to the possibility. Like as coaches, here's the person we want them to go here, and we're like trying to jump it all the time. But if they're not open, and the brain loves the word open, loves that word, and loves the word possibility, like open to possibility, then people are like, well, maybe it's possible. I know for the things I had, chronically, I had eczema all over my hands. I had dense fibrous breast tissue. Like if anyone would have said, I can help you with that, I'd be like, no, you can't. No, that's not possible. I've had this for my whole adult life, right? This
I
since I was 13. Like there's no way you can help me. I've tried everything. So we kind of have that patterning, but it's fascinating to get people to just open up just a little bit. Maybe it's about a work thing, but then the health thing starts to open up. So,
No, no, I think that's a really good observation, and I think anybody who's a coach, as I am, recognizes that you have to be willing to try new things. You have to be open to new ideas. You have to be willing to change because if you're going to just do the same things you've always done, you're going to get the same results you've always had. And so what you're saying is that there has to be this um, psychometric kind of
yeah.
willingness, and probably that's probably one of the prerequisites of taking a client on is you have to say,
Hmm.
are you willing to be coachable? Are you open to new ideas?
Yeah.
Can you see yourself getting to the other side of this? And if the answer is, well, you're number seven in the six out work
That's
is probably
right.
the yeah, yeah.
I work with young people as well, as young as 10, actually. I had a teen whose mother wanted me to work with him, and he was a six. And I said, then you're not ready. Like you're not ready to do this. I don't know, maybe if your parents take away your phone and your car and everything else, like you can have some motivation, but he wasn't ready. And I actually tried to convince the mother to work with me. Oftentimes parents are like, no, they'll do it for their kids, but not for themselves. But if we could actually work with her, that probably would have created a different tone in the home. And that
Mhm.
that could have been the thing that would have then helped him. I know for my youngest son, he was 10 at the time when I created this method. I changed, and I'm sharing all this with him, and he radically changed. And he ended up at Columbia, salutatorian of the class, like marathoner, running 5 marathons his senior year. So he's in like all these cities, Dallas, Vancouver, all over the
Mhm.
place. And he has the best of friends. So it's not like I love it when people really open up a lot of things. And by the way, this like a gross motor motion opens new neural pathways like that. So that's why, it'll say, oh, it'll take 21 days to change a habit. I had a salesperson in 4 days, he had a breakthrough. 4 days because he wanted it. Number one, he seriously wanted it, but also he did it. Like he was actively looking and saying, wow, and he's doing these funny movements and right. But it's really cool. Like there's no, it usually takes my clients 6 to 8 weeks, which is why I built a 3-month program to start everybody. Sometimes
Mhm.
we go longer. I've worked with some executives for as long as 18 months. Depends on what they need and what they want. But we start with 3 months, and most people get a breakthrough in that time period. It's very rare that they don't, because I
So,
just have created it very simply.
yeah. And I've seen your testimonials, so we definitely have people vouching for it. So how do you take this? I mean, it's a great
Hmm.
idea. You're in a blue ocean because, as we said, there's a lot of recognition of the problem, but there are not a lot of solutions out there. So
Hmm.
how do you bring it to more people? And I think this is
Yeah.
what you're sort of wrestling with now is how do I scale this business? There's only one of you. There's only 24 hours in a day. You
Yeah.
can't solve this for the population really that needs it. So how do you get the message out there and how do you grow it and make your method more ubiquitous?
Yeah. Definitely. Well, I have an online course, so that makes it very easy for people. But one-on-one coaching, I think, is the most profound way to get this kind of information because it has to be customized. So I started a certification program back in 2022. So I take people through the method so they learn it for themselves and they understand how to coach it to others and take them through that. And also, if they're starting their own coaching business, I help them understand how to create that. So, so in 2022, I just started certification, and I would say half of my clients now are certification clients. So the message is growing. I mean, I would love to have them in every country of the world and every, I imagine at some point creating, I've always wanted to create until 2020 when COVID hit, I always wanted to create a retreat and research center. I would love to do hard research on some of the things that have changed with me. My youngest son majored in psychology. He and I talk about that, like at some point creating an actual research center where we're looking at some of the things that can actually happen if you change and don't release these hormones anymore. What happens to your body? What happens to your mind? So, but certification certainly is helped me just touch so many more people. And yeah, there's just endless potential for books and for growth. And I right now my books are mainly for my clients and for speaking engagements and things like that, but I would love to have my next book like really make it. So
Yeah.
that would really touch a lot of lives. Um, and then, it's the pressure-free athlete, the pressure-free college student, the pressure, it's endless what can be spun off of this. Kind of like chicken soup for the soul, you know.
Right. So, I mean, yeah, and I think that that's a great analogy, and it's kind of like a little bit like AA. It started a method that worked. It
Hmm.
got people off drinking. This gets people de-stressed. Your testimonials show it. I've talked to people about it, and to the extent that maybe some scientific validation. As if we could, which AA was validated when neuroscience really got, and they were able to look in the brain and they could see the actual before and after of people and what happened and the changes that occurred
Hmm.
and things like that. And I mean, I'm not saying your method's AA, but I'm just saying it's,
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that was incredible that you
Yeah.
discovered something that actually, changed people
Yeah.
through, their physiology and everything else.
I see when I read like my son's psychology textbooks and I see like the history of psychology, it's really moved into the phase of positive psychology. I don't call mine that at all. I call mine optimal psychology because you might be a very serious person. You might not think that what you're doing, you're not feeling happy while you're doing this thing, but are you in the zone? Are you feeling optimal? That's really what I'm after because I will play a piece of violin music that's really sad. I'm not happy, but I'm really optimal as I'm performing. So I think this positive psychology is going to have it's had its moment, but I want to be the next thing. Like I want
Yeah.
those psychology kids to learn this because it is life changing for anyone they're ever going to work with. So it's like it's more optimal psychology, I would call it.
Okay. So Al, if somebody in the
Hmm.
audience wants to, get into your program either for themselves or become certified, how do they go about reaching you, and what's the best way to contact you for, to move forward?
Yeah, they can just go to my name, elleingles.com or pressure-free.com. Got a little wave here. We'll wait for this wave to go. We're coming back in.
So
We get a little wave.
was the connection
Yeah, it's
bad?
okay. Yeah, so ellingalls.com or pressure-free.com will take you there too. And you can just have a conversation with me. That's the fastest way. If you're looking at a work team situation also, so I do trainings in corporations as well, and any team.
Right.
So yeah, so that's the best way. And we have a conversation and see if it's a good fit for you. And the conversation will be completely pressure free. So you won't feel sold to or anything. I mean, that would be very against who I am and what I am and what I do here. So,
Yeah, right.
but yeah, that's the fastest way we can assess what's going on. I'll give you some tips right up front in that conversation. And if it feels like a good fit, we just get going and
Yeah,
make it happen.
jump right into it. Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it. And I appreciate what you're doing for entrepreneurs. And we're all trying to help them and the business that you're building. And we wish you the success in spreading this even further because I think it's very needed.